You're listening to Food Rebels, a brand new radio show and podcast dedicated to food founders, challenger brands, and people in food and drink who are doing things a bit differently. I'm your host, AJ Sharp. I'm a flavour fanatic, food judge, and an entrepreneur. Food Rebels is a weekly show which airs every Wednesday live at 5 p.m. And for the next 30 minutes, we'll be giving you a peek behind the curtain and inside the minds of the people who are shaking up the food industry. And this week, I'm joined by another flavour expert, all-round foodie legend, the lovely Susie Pelter is joining us again. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Susie, as if you didn't know, is a food presenter, demo chef, food judge. We do great taste together, recipe writer. She is also, you might not know, an ambassador for both Marie Curie and the Good Grief Trust. In her spare time, she's constantly searching for new snacks on the market.
I am, yes. All the time.
All the time. I love it. Your Instagram, I just sit there going, heart, heart, heart. I love this. You're going to love this. This week's show is all about breakfast treats.
I love breakfast. I love treats.
Although either of it doesn't have to be had just at breakfast time. But we have some really exciting experts in the show. We're going to be meeting Robin Loudon from Roller Granola. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much.
And Emilie Holmes from Good and Proper Tea. Welcome, Emilie.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's really exciting. So let's start with Robin. Can you tell me a little bit about Roller Granola?
We are soon to enter our 10th year. Started the business to just figure out whether people wanted to eat really healthy granola as opposed to something full of cereals and sugar and not much else. And it was an exercise that kind of occupied my time. And next thing I knew, we had a customer in Denmark who wanted to take our product. So had to get a factory and then wanted to make everything ourselves. And all those years later, we now serve, I think 75% of our product goes abroad. We serve about 300 farm and deli shops. We serve about 90 zero waste shops.
Amazing.
It's
what is
cross-channel.
granola, Robin? For people who don't know, I mean, I happily eat it. I don't actually know exactly what it is.
It's a mixture of oats, nuts, seeds and fruit baked together with a little bit of sweetener and a little bit of oil.
Ah, is that what gives it that lovely crunchy
It is
thing?
exactly. Yep.
Lovely. Thank you very much. That sounds really exciting. I can see a whole array that we're going to be tasting shortly. And Emilie, can you tell me about Good and Proper Tea, please?
I started Good and Proper because I don't drink coffee, shock horror, and
how do you survive?
I was just a frustrated, angry tea drinker who couldn't understand why when I went for a cup of coffee with a friend, it was always a really lackluster cup of tea. They would have a great cup of coffee, a barista crafted incredible drink, and I would get this tea bag floating in a cup and always feel a little bit underserved.
With some like beige milk floating around.
Beige milk, maybe even just hot water with a bag on the side.
No.
Depending on where you are in the world. It was almost universally disappointing, and you were paying not far off what the coffee friend was paying. So I was always really confused and enraged by it. And as all great businesses begin with a sort of personal frustration, selfish frustration.
Somebody enraged going, someone has to do something.
Exactly, do something about it. So eventually I did, and I started the business in 2012 with an idea, and I took that idea to Kickstarter, the crowdfunding platform, which actually we now all know, but at the time hadn't landed in the UK yet. And it was 2 weeks off landing in the UK from the US, and I thought, I'm going to get a van, street food truck again. Street food was a big thing at the time, and I'm going to turn it into a tea van and just sort of get my idea out there, a bit like you, sort of find out whether people felt as angry as I did. And we were very lucky because we went live the day Kickstarter went live, and because it was a US platform, people thought it was just so funny that the kind of first project in the UK was a tea van, and living up to all their stereotypes.
Excellent.
And it turns out there were loads of angry tea drinkers. So their names are still etched on the back of the van as initial kind of supporters and ambassadors. And 10 years on, we now supply over 1,000 cafes and restaurants and hotels. We
Wow.
in offices. We have our kind of D2C, so we supply obviously lots of very loyal, growing community of tea drinkers at home, and we try to basically breathe new sort of excitement and life into a slightly kind of old and sometimes fusty category, but most importantly, just focused on doing it right. So just having a really great cup of tea and showing everyone how great tea can be, and that it doesn't have to be this lackluster cup that I was so angry about. So no, it's been a bit of a journey and a very exciting one, and I'm very much still learning.
Amazing. I mean, presumably you've had to source different tea leaves from different places around the world. And I mean, we can't grow tea here yet, can we? I don't think.
Actually.
Oh, we
A bit
can.
like wine, we've found a way.
Have we?
Climate change is helping that. So no, we do actually grow tea now in Scotland, in Cornwall, and a few other places. But
wow.
not famously so.
Yeah.
And no, we source our teas from 13 different regions around the world. So it's quite a varied and complex and heavily nuanced supply chain of different challenges and different worlds that we kind of get them from, and a huge kind of traditions attached to each of them. But that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, I bet. I'm wondering if we should just dive in and have a sip of these three beautiful looking teas in front of us before they all get cold.
Yeah, sure.
Shall we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
What should we start with? So
Why don't we start with the English breakfast?
Okay.
Which hopefully you can identify relatively easily. Hopefully it hasn't got too cool. So the English breakfast is a blend. So we started out by sourcing exclusively single origin teas. So single origin is a word that's often used in chocolate and coffee, so it might be something you're familiar with, but it basically means that it's a reflection of the geographical region in which it's grown. So just like wine, tea is kind of huge. The flavour in a cup is hugely linked to the terroir, so the kind of altitude in which it's grown, the climate, everything about the atmosphere in which it's grown. So these 13 regions I talked about have very different terroir and therefore very different flavours as well as traditions. And we've taken kind of over the years, we've created only a few house blends, one of them being the English breakfast. And this English breakfast is a Kenya base, so it's kind of really rich, dark, kind of fruity, earthy black tea as a backbone of the blend, which gives it a kind of really nice chunk and a bit of kind of robust character that you want in a cup of tea. It's then got a little bit of Assam. So Assam is a northeastern India, so it's a really flat, humid climate where you get really rich malty teas. It's known as the whiskey of the tea world, so you get a kind of really lovely maltiness and a little bit of kind of molasses, and it's what you almost always will find a little bit of Assam in your breakfast blend. It's kind of gives it a real again a lovely coppery colour, a lovely biscuity colour when you put milk in. And then Ceylon. So Ceylon is a Sri Lankan black tea, and it gives it a little bit of life. We call it brisk in the tea world, which obviously shouldn't be applied to food and drink, but somehow means it's kind of a lively, citrusy, bit more aromatic, lifts those two other quite chunky component parts, and so you hopefully get a really lovely, well-rounded, relatively full-bodied breakfast tea that's lovely with a bit of milk.
That's amazing. I never realised English breakfast was blended. I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world. I don't think I'd ever even really thought about it for long enough, but of course it's a blend.
Yeah, well, that's why people obviously have brands that they gravitate towards, and it's because their particular blend recipe is what they like. So it might be that it's got more Assam or more Kenya or a very light blend or a smoky backbone. It's kind of a real recipe. And English breakfast really is a kind of a quick way of denoting something that you can put a little bit of milk in the morning. But these are they're all whole leaf teas, which may be too complicated to explain now, but means that they take a little bit longer to infuse and give up their flavour, but you should get a really lovely full kind of, and all the complexities of the flavour of each of those component parts should come through and get something really nice.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, see, I'm actually a coffee drinker, but I loved that because I felt it gave a real flavour experience similar to my coffee in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I often find tea can be quite drying as well, whereas this felt like there was so much going on in that one refreshing mouthful that I just took.
Good. Well, yeah, astringency is kind of quite often something you get from black teas, and sometimes you want it in a little amount, but, particularly for putting milk in, but often it's something that you don't want, and therefore when we get to the green tea, it's something you want to avoid if at all possible. You want sweet floral flavours, not the drying astringency that you're talking about.
Yeah, right. It had a lot of layers and complexity to the flavour, but not the astringency, the slightly kind of tannicky, bitter flavour you can get when you have a black tea, because we're just drinking this without milk, which is, for me, certainly unusual, because I normally have a little dash of milk in my tea. But it's lovely. really easy drinking, really, really smooth and good flavours.
Good.
And what's the next one we've got?
So the next one, the Jade Tips, which is our house green tea. It's our best-selling green, and actually it's a really fun one to sell because I think we now kind of know that most menus need to have a green tea on them. That green tea had a huge kind of wave of excitement about 5 years ago, where people were sort of thinking, oh my God, it's going to cure everything and it's so healthy. Don't necessarily like the flavour, but I'll drink lots of it and I'll put it in everything and I'll put it in my hand creams and my face creams and I'll just smear it around my life.
Good caffeine or something,
exactly. But quite often it's a bad green tea or quite a low quality green tea, which can be really astringent and bitter, coated with or blended with something yummy to make it palatable, basically. But in actual fact, green teas, when they're good quality and they're grown really high, you get really lovely kind of clean flavours, should be floral and sweet and smooth and delicate and lovely and easy drinking. And actually, the kind of, again, going back to the astringency, you ideally want to brew a green tea at a slightly lower temperature, around 75, 80 degrees. A good green tea will be relatively forgiving within that. But if I was putting a green tea that had been made with boiling water here next to a kind of slightly cooler temperature, you'd be amazed at how sweet the cooler one was, just because the boiling water, which you want to extract some of those tannins in a black tea, you don't want that in your green tea. You want a slightly cooler temperature, get all the floral and smooth, soft kind of sweet notes, but you don't want the bitterness.
Yeah, because if you try and make a black tea with not boiling water, you know, sometimes at the school fete where there's an urn and it's on about 60 degrees or something. Yeah. And it comes out and it gets that scummy, frothy bit on the top.
Yeah, horrible.
Is that because it's not boiling? Because it needed to be
and
boiling?
It's been sat there for 8. There's all sorts of things.
Everything's wrong there.
But yes, if you don't have hot enough water, then you don't get that bit of tannic astringency that you do need a little bit of in a black tea.
But the green tea needs to be lighter. Is that the same with peppermint as well?
No, so herbs are plants in their own right. So all of the teas, apart from herbal teas, so blacks, oolongs, greens and whites, all come from the same plant, which is Camellia sinensis. And the kind of the thing that defines them as types is the production method. So they either will be kind of exposed to oxygen and oxidized and then become really rich and robust like a black tea, or they'll be kind of fired or steamed immediately after picking, which means that they retain all that lovely green vegetal character. And that kind of process then needs to be brewed in a certain way. So the black teas, again, you want to get that tannic flavour out of it, whereas the green teas are a bit more delicate. You need to brew them at a slightly lighter temperature to get something nice and smooth and palatable.
It's beautifully light and floral and refreshing.
Yeah, everything you said to describe it was exactly how it tasted, and it was soft and it didn't have that astringency that, I mean, my husband actually drinks green tea all the time and I've tried to love it, but I think I need to introduce him to this one because... Yeah, definitely.
And actually it's one I love sharing with people because it quite often converts a real green tea hater to someone that thinks, oh my God, actually this is delicious and it's clean and refreshing.
Because it should be floral. It should have flavour to it. And
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which this does.
Yeah.
It's a kind of tea for the summer or tea for the middle of the day, isn't it? Where you just kind of... You
11
need that.
o'clock kind of pick me up. Yeah.
Lovely. Are you enjoying these, Robin? Do you drink tea?
I do drink tea, and I actually have tried Emilie's tea as well.
Have you?
I have indeed, yes. I like your matcha.
Oh, good. Well, matches for the real green tea,
expensive, but very good.
Aficionados.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm glad.
That Jade Tips, is that number 16? Oh, they've all got numbers on.
They have, which is
That's so cool.
A real kind of Emilieism that's still there that no one really ever adopted, and I loved because every time we found a tea, we would give it a number and bring it into the collection. And the idea was that I think we've retired a couple over the years, but basically we would continue to add teas that we found and loved to the collection, and somehow no one's ever called them by their numbers. And when someone does, and they sort of say, "I'd like a number 4," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't even remember what that was," 'cause no one took it up. But I'm very pleased that you noticed the number.
No, I like the numbers. It reminds me of kind of, wine bins or something where you kind of, you measure it all. It's so fascinating, isn't it? Because in my head, it makes complete sense, like you said about chocolate, like you said about coffee, that coffees can come from different regions. They can be roasted in different ways and they can be treated in different ways. And we've all got really quasi-expert about this whole thing, where you go into a coffee shop and they say, right, it was a Colombian roast and da-da-da. And you have these big, deep conversations about hazelnut aromas and all the rest of it. But tea is tea. Yeah. But it's not, is it? Because having just tasted Jade Tips, that is completely different to what I think of as a green tea. And I would have to say I'm a green tea hater.
Well, there you go.
That didn't taste like green tea though. That tasted
what green tea
beautiful
should
and
taste
floral and lovely and light and not astringent or bitter. Because I'm so sensitive to those tannic flavours.
Well, that's why I'm the angry tea drinker. because this is supposed to be what they taste like, but there's so much bad tea in the UK. We drink such low quality tea and at such low prices, which is a separate conversation. But therefore, we've got we don't really know what good tea. I mean, it's just like coffee 20 years ago, where now you taste a really good coffee and you think, damn, my really cheap coffee is now ruined.
Yeah,
I can't possibly drink this anymore because I now know that was one dimensional and there's such an amazing flavour that I can get from my coffee.
No, but I think it's fascinating, isn't it? Because there's a bit of a psyche that we're going to have to change. And I know, the British culture historically has been very, people get passionately, they're a Yorkshire tea sort of a person, or they're a, Twining sort of a person, and they buy their brand, they buy the same brand. And actually, you don't do that with coffee. You don't do that with lots of things. You actually explore it.
It's more like craft beer, actually. So craft beer, when craft beer first came in, people would get very angry and be like, I want a pint of tasteless, watery, cheap beer.
I like my whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't want flavour. And then obviously slowly you get a taste for it. And now obviously craft beer's exploded and exploding. I think it takes time for people to let go of that kind of...
And not just gulp it down and actually take the time to taste what they're consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, and now people are more likely to have one beer and it be a really good beer than they are necessarily 3 flavourless beers.
Yeah.
Or there's more people that do it. Obviously, we mustn't exaggerate the size of the craft beer market. But
should we taste the peppermint before that one goes cold? And then I'd really like to taste this granola that I can smell. It's amazing.
So the final one is the peppermint. And as I said, herbs are sort of a different category in their own right because they're not from that same tea plant. They are all different herbs, as we know. I'm sure lots of you, hopefully. Oh,
it's amazing. It really is cooling and beautiful and all of those things.
Good.
What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I drink peppermint tea all the time, actually. I find that actually when I'm judging for the Great Taste Awards, which I noticed there's a few stars across your products as well.
Yes.
I always have peppermint tea because I just feel like it just settles my tummy and just gives me a bit of a
true.
Boost
it does
as well for the day.
Digestive,
yeah. So it was very, very, very good.
Brilliant. I've just handed round everybody a little sample of. I think this one's Calm, is it, Robin?
Calm, yes.
Can you tell us? They've all got really interesting names. Can you tell us why you've gone for?
We've got 4 varieties we launched in this new tropic range, and actually 2 of them are specifically focused on kind of trying to give something back to people immediately when you eat it. And 2 of them are kind of more slow burn. So this one's aiming to give something to people who want a bit of breakfast that's going to not give them a sugar hit, give them a slow burn energy, but also it's got ashwagandha in there, it's got some lion mane in there. So the whole idea is to try and give people a little bit of a cognitive lift and a calming breakfast. So there's a range of ingredients in there, all of which are designed to try and give someone an extra something in the morning. Make it part of your breakfast, make it part of your diet, but more importantly, have something which is giving you an immediate benefit. And in the research we've done and the work we've done with various crazy people who try our product, it's come back really well and is aiming to look at, let's say, a more distinct tribe than a generic granola. Generic granola, goes to everyone. This is kind of saying, well, if you're of a mindset saying, do you know what, I just want something that's going to relax me and calm me and give me a good start to the day, that's the focus of this one. It's got green tea in, matcha green tea, but not as good as Emilie's, I'm sure. It's got a little bit of chocolate in as well. So the whole idea is to give people a flavour boost, a range of spices which are beneficial for them, we believe, and also the lower sugar, the high about 35% oat content, good nuts in there, so it just will sustain as well as give a cognitive benefit. That's the aim.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's very clever as well. I think, I was thinking whilst I was eating it of like, I buy shower gels which say things like calm or energize on them as well. It's kind of, if you want to eat something that's going to give you that benefit, fuel you the way you need to be fueled for the day, it's so clever to be able to especially with calm, because I think, for a family, you want to have that slow release, you want to be able to get through the whole day. Breakfast is so important. And there's something really, just the flavour is so kind of almost a bit floral, a bit just light. It doesn't feel like a heavy, rich granola. It feels almost completely different from what it looks, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we've gone for names which are, normally we would just talk about the nuts and the ingredients, but here we thought we need to give someone a signal that just says this is what it's for. Just strip it right the way back. This is quite a novel concept. I mean, no one else is putting nootropics into food.
No, it's really cool. It's
But
that
our thinking-
functional element as well as
Exactly.
something that tastes good, because
Exactly.
we've seen functional food, something that gives your body something else,
Yep.
flying through the roof. I mean, the whole point of food is that it gives your body something, but and not always does it taste good. And this is something that tastes really good as well as having that other element in.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot of concern that many people have got on ultra processed foods. We are proudly still making product in the same way as we did in my kitchen almost 10 years ago, on a massively bigger
Much
scale.
bigger scale.
But actually, the tech is exactly the same. We have not dumbed it down. We have not made it mass production. We make in batches, and that means say that we can put a little bit more TLC in it.
I mean, I think it feels really generous to me. You can see whole almonds, really big, large, nuts and oats. And I got a whole lovely dark chocolate disc in my calm.
Yeah, actually, that's very true, because I've tasted many granolas before which are almost a bit dusty because they've ground everything up too small. You want that texture, you want that bite, you want it to feel kind of like a fulfilling mouthful, and you absolutely get that here.
Yeah, when we first started the business, and I didn't come from a sales background at all, but we were selling on market, so I had to learn to talk to people and listen to people. But actually on markets, you hear people commenting on your product and remarking on those things that are important and not important. And the visibility of the product and the ingredients was kind of fundamental to the engagement we got. And it drove us to where we are. It's embedded in everything we do, because it's about listening to customers. It's about not just your own anger, of course, but also your determination to serve those people who do want better food. And I think that's what most of us have got common. If we're in this sector, we're trying to give people better food that they are really looking for, and hopefully in tune with their needs.
Brilliant.
It's
And
delicious.
You've got the body and soul one, which I've just given everyone a small thing, and I'm going to start having a taste of Energize. Can you tell us about those two?
So Body and Soul is one of our, let's say, slower burn one. It's got creatine in. So the aim is being that it's going to give you a muscle build, so direct into the muscle. And then on top of that, we've got ginseng in there. We've got maca in there to try and give you some energy, but it's not aiming to give you a quick boost. It's not a quick gym fix. It's aiming after gym to give you something that's going to sustain you, help you build muscle, help you have more energy and sustain yourself through the day. An awful lot of people who either go out first thing in the morning or in the evening will really not sustain their body unless they're going to have something after their workout. And the idea of this is to try and provide something which is enjoyable to eat. It's got really beneficial ingredients in there. It's got a little bit of fun in there because it's got some freeze-dried fruit in there. But it's also got a serious edge because all of those ingredients are aiming to help you build the very thing that you're trying to do as part of your lifestyle.
That's brilliant, actually, because I've been struggling with my daughter. She's a weightlifter, and to find something that will fuel her before her workouts and for afterwards as well. But this would be perfect because it would give her that slow release. It would help her with her muscles as well, give her the energy that she needs, and also fill her up.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are into fitness and are kind of thinking about working out and how to fuel their bodies either side of their workout. So absolutely, it's a really good option for them.
Yeah, and food should taste great. None of us want to be serving food to people that's just, it's functionally rich, but actually it tastes awful. It's about food you can feel proud of, and to be honest, if I wouldn't eat it, we won't sell it. So that has to be the norm, and we want people to enjoy it, and if they do, so much the better.
So you've got 4 flavours. That's the whole range?
That's the whole range. We've got a couple of other things that we're thinking of, but because this is a new concept, we're launching. We are launched. We're getting the product out there right now. We're taking feedback from people. If the feedback is as positive as it seems right now, then we'll have a couple of other coming along, which I'm working on in the background. So as we go along, we'll find out whether or not there is genuine receptiveness, and if people enjoy the product. Again, it's back to listening to people. We don't know best. We'll listen to what people want. We will discuss with them. We'll maybe refashion the product a little bit if we get feedback of a certain type, because it's about serving people. It's about giving them what they want and understanding their feedback. We don't know everything. We just know what we know.
I can see that there'd be such a good market for people who are busy, rushing around. They're trying to fit in the gym. They're trying to fit in their job. They're trying to do all the different things. And, something like this where someone's actually already done all the thinking for you, and you can just have a bowl of that and you're away for the day.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
The Energize you mentioned, it's got some coffee in it. It's got some caffeine in it. It's got some lion's mane in it at a slightly higher level than we've put into the Calm. So all of that is really going to give you a little bit of a brain boost and maybe a little bit of a smile as well. So, it is about reducing anxiety. It is about helping you focus on whatever you want to do in your day. We kind of position it as a bit more of a cappuccino type thing. It's got some white chocolate in there, so it's a little bit of fun. Maybe 11 o'clock in the morning when you haven't had breakfast, because many people don't have breakfast, the devils. It's an option to have a little bowl of something that's going to give you a pick-me-up and carry you through the rest of the morning.
And for me, feeding children, knowing that there's a little bit of chocolate in something is how I can get them to eat all manner of healthy things.
So true.
Absolutely.
Drop a little bit of chocolate on and you're fine. You're away.
Yeah. I've had to wind my neck in a little bit. I have always thought about being uber healthy, but if you listen to what people want, sometimes they just want something they're not going to worry about, that they're just going to eat really easily and enjoy. And if that brings the benefits, the nuts and the seeds and nootropics and the oats, what's not to love about that?
That's it. And it's not about being perfect either, is it?
No.
It's about being better than it was the day before.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. And it's, making good choices that are not always going to be perfect.
Exactly. And if you can make it easy for people to say yes, or when they try something that they come away and say, do you know what? As we did a moment ago on the tea, I'll have another go at that. And that's all you want. You want people to try things, and if they enjoy it, come back again.
This has been brilliant. I can't believe we're out of time already. I've loved this.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Susie, for coming in. And thank you very much to our fabulous guests, Robin London from Roller Granola and Emilie Holmes from Good and Property. Thanks for coming in, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
You've been listening to Food Rebels. We broadcast live at 5 every Wednesday through radio shows and stations around the UK and further afield, as well as podcasting apps, all the usual ones, iTunes, Spotify, Audible, whatever one you've got on your phone. If you're interested to appear on the show, please do get in touch on hello@foodrebels.co.uk, as we'd love to hear from you, especially if you've got a rebellious story to tell us.